Okay, let's talk. So I'm going to go through my notes section by section. Please stay to watch the whole video, and please keep in mind that there will be notes in this video as well, and please pay attention to those as well. Everything is going to kind of matter here. So I will first talk about my experience because that will be relevant to the response that I am going to give here in a minute. I have a lot of experience with trauma, anxiety, and depression. My parents' lives were so influenced by trauma that it affected the way that they parented even after they changed some things. For example, my mom would have trauma responses and often trauma dump on me as I was growing up. I started having friends in middle school and high school who were also experiencing trauma, and I would try to help them and kind of be their shoulder to cry on. I've also been on the receiving end of someone's trauma response, although me and that person both agreed that the response was ultimately unjust. And I have also been doing research into trauma, particularly religious trauma, for a series that I'm doing on TikTok, because I find that Christians often ignore that kind of thing, or kind of sweep it under the rug, or even make fun of people who have experienced that kind of thing. So I have a grasp on trauma. But all those things that I talked about from my past also play a role into my anxiety and depression, which has largely developed over the last 3 years, where I experienced my own traumatic events and problems. So much so that unaliving has become an option for me a couple times. Furthermore, I've also taken high school and college courses in psychology, and studying depression, anxiety, and trauma is something that I do often and on my free time to better understand myself and even some of my friends who go through those things. I have also had a lot of experience with the LGBTQ community, and some of my best friends and even a family member of mine is a part of the LGBTQ community, and we've had great relationships and great conversations, and even in spite of our disagreements. Particularly my family member, I would definitely die for my family member who is a part of the LGBTQ community and would hate any disrespect towards her. I've learned and grown a lot from this community. With all of that said, how is this relevant? Well, it's relevant in how I would like to respond to Savvy's original video, because it is obvious to me, people that I know that are either LGBTQ, they're allies of LGBTQ, or one of my friends in particular is a psych major who can read body language, that your response was a trauma response. Now, to clarify, that is not a problem. I have already said over and over again that the miscommunication from my original video was on me, and I apologize for that, and I will do better in the future to make sure that that is not an issue. And furthermore, no one should be blamed for a trauma response. It's not necessarily the kind of thing that you can control. However, in the midst of this response, it became obvious that you were not responding to me. You were responding to a misunderstanding of what I said that caused you to view me as a threat and something that needed to be taken down. Now, none of that would necessarily be an issue except for the fact that your comments were very disrespectful towards me, and my depression and anxiety took a very sharp uptick after that video response and after I heard what you had to say about me. Let's just say thank God for friends, God himself, and counseling, because the thoughts of self-loathing, non-self-preservation, among other negative attacks towards myself, from myself, would have been too much for me to deal with alone. So due to my emotional and mental health, as well as a really good counseling session, I am going to draw a boundary here, and it will be respected. After repeated attempts to apologize and to take your perspective into account and change myself in order to better myself when it comes to these sorts of discussions, you can forgive me. You can apologize to me for the comments that you made that have caused me so much stress and such over the last few days. And you can delete your video response, as it does not accurately reflect me as a person, nor my views on this topic. Or you can swipe up and completely ignore me and just forget that my account exists. Don't interact with it in any way. No response videos, don't mention me, don't bring me up in a video, nothing like that. Just pretend that I don't exist. Because again, my emotional and mental health cannot take what I received from that response video. Not that I don't mind a honest and really, really good critique, and I've corrected myself before on this account. That's not the issue. The issue was the disrespect and the harm that it caused me. So that is my boundary. You can either forgive me, apologize, and delete your original video, or just move along and pretend that my account doesn't exist. But that's the boundary, and that will be respected. Now, to everyone else who responded, thank you so much. Despite the stress and anxiety, your calm and peaceful responses were helpful to me mentally and emotionally, even though I don't agree with everything. I think they demonstrated what online responses should look like, and they also reminded me of scripture where it is written, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." And furthermore, it is written, "He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him." So with that said, I listened and learned. I spent the whole weekend doing a bunch of research on the things you guys suggested I look into, and thank you for that. Hopefully, I will be sharing some of that in videos to come in the future so that Christians and non-Christians can be educated on some of the things dealing with the LGBTQ community. However, with all that said, I feel the need to reiterate and exegete a phrase that I've been saying, and that is, I want to have virtuous dialogue between people who disagree. So let's talk about those things: virtue, dialogue, and disagreement. I want to demonstrate Christian virtues and good ethics such as love, patience, kindness, self-control, not engaging in any ad hominems, which are personal attacks, rather than dealing with the argument, and at least trying to limit other logical fallacies that would be offensive to the person, not just a fallacy that would be a flaw in an argument. Dialogue, as in, I want you to be able to express your views openly and honestly, and I want to be able to express my views openly and honestly. We both should be able to listen, and we both should be able to speak, and we both have to do so well and effectively. And finally, disagree. This is a pill that we're all going to have to swallow. Much like Dr. Sean McDowell and Matthew Vines can be good friends and disagree, we can be friends and be willing to disagree, and at the end of the argumentation or the dialogue, not be convinced of the other side. And that's something that everyone, LGBTQ, Christian, or what have you, is going to have to accept. So that is my boundary for everyone going forward. If you wish to interact with content that in nature follows the principle virtuous dialogue between people who disagree, and you're not willing to be virtuous, you're not willing to dialogue, and you don't want to disagree but something else, then don't interact with that sort of content. But if you want to have virtuous dialogue between people who disagree, then you are more than welcome to do whatever you have to do with videos that I have where I'm giving a view and where there will be disagreement and conversation. I would love to dialogue. I would love to have understand someone else's perspective. I would love to be virtuous in those conversations, and so on and so forth. So with all that said, a few last things. Number one, again, I apologize for the miscommunication. It was on me, and I will do better in the future. And I will go back to posting normal content in relation to Pride Month and the LGBTQ community, as well as men's mental health, because men's mental health is often overshadowed, as a pansexual woman pointed out recently on this app. So I will be continuing to make videos about both. Again, I apologize for anything and any sort of harm that I've done, but I hope that my boundaries can be respected, and I hope that you guys can forgive me. Thank you.